It sounds like you want a 1,500-word story based on that title. Here you go. A young mechanic fixed a single mom's car, then she asked him to be her son's father. The bell above the garage door jingled as the old blue sedan coughed its way into the lot. Ethan Morales wiped his hands on a grease-stained rag and stepped out from beneath the hood of a pickup truck. At 24, he was the youngest lead mechanic at Rivera's Auto Repair, a small family-owned shop on the edge of town. Business was usually steady, oil changes, brake jobs, the occasional transmission rebuild, but the way the sedan sputtered told him this one was trouble. The driver's door creaked open. A woman stepped out, mid-30s maybe, dark hair pulled into a tired ponytail. A little boy followed from the back seat, clutching a worn backpack nearly as big as he was. "Are you about to close?" she asked, worry etched across her face. Ethan glanced at the clock. 10 minutes to 6. "We're open," he said with a reassuring smile. "What's going on?" The woman sighed. "It's making that noise again. I was hoping it would make it one more week." The engine answered for her with a pitiful rattle. Ethan popped the hood and listened carefully. Within seconds, he recognized the uneven rhythm. "When was the last time you changed the timing belt?" he asked gently. She hesitated. I don't think I have." That told him everything. He introduced himself. She was Sarah. Her son, Lucas, was 7 and unusually quiet, observing everything with serious brown eyes. As Ethan examined the engine more closely, the truth became clear: the timing belt was badly worn. If it snapped, it could destroy the engine entirely. "It's fixable," Ethan said. "But it's urgent." Sarah's shoulders tensed. "How much?" He calculated quickly in his head. Parts, labor, markup. The number wasn't small. When he told her, she went silent. "I don't have that," she admitted finally. "I just paid rent. I'm picking up extra shifts at the diner, but..." Her voice trailed off. Lucas stared at his sneakers. Ethan felt something twist in his chest. He remembered his own mom counting bills at the kitchen table, whispering prayers that the car would last just a little longer so she could get to work. His father had left when he was 5. A broken transmission had once cost them their apartment. "Leave it with me," Ethan said suddenly. Sarah blinked. "I can't just leave it if I can't pay." "I didn't say you couldn't pay," he replied with a small grin. "We'll figure something out." That night, after closing, Ethan stayed late. He told his boss, his uncle, that he'd handle it out of his own pocket if he had to. "You've got a soft heart, kid," his uncle muttered, but he didn't stop him. Ethan worked for hours. He replaced the timing belt, adjusted the tensioners, checked the water pump, and topped off fluids. He even fixed a minor oil leak he hadn't mentioned to Sarah. By the time he finished, it was past midnight. The next morning, Sarah returned, anxiety written across her face. Ethan handed her the keys. "It's done." She looked stunned. "Already?" He nodded. "And the cost?" she asked quietly. He handed her a paper. The amount was less than half of what he'd originally quoted. Her eyes filled with tears. "You didn't have to do that." "I know," he said simply. Lucas ran out to the car and climbed into the driver's seat, pretending to steer. For the first time, Ethan saw him smile. That should have been the end of it. But it wasn't. Over the next few weeks, Sarah came back, once for an oil change, once because a dashboard light scared her. Each time, she brought Lucas. Lucas started asking questions. "Why does the engine get hot? What does this do? Can I hold that wrench?" Ethan found himself explaining pistons and spark plugs. In the simplest terms he could. Lucas listened like every word mattered. One Saturday, Sarah arrived looking more exhausted than usual. "Rough week?" Ethan asked. She hesitated, then nodded. "Lucas's school had a donuts with dad day yesterday." Ethan's chest tightened. "He didn't tell me," he said. "He didn't want me to feel bad," Sarah replied softly. "He said he didn't mind. But he wore his nicest shirt." The image hit Ethan harder than he expected. He remembered sitting alone during a school father-son event, pretending it didn't bother him. That afternoon, while Sarah filled out paperwork inside, Lucas wandered into the garage. "Do you think engines ever feel lonely?" Lucas asked suddenly. Ethan blinked. "Lonely? Like when a part is missing?" Ethan crouched down. "Yeah, sometimes they don't run right without every piece." Lucas nodded thoughtfully. A month later, Sarah showed up again, but this time, she didn't park in the service bay. She stood by the office door, hands trembling slightly. "Can we talk?" she asked Ethan. They sat in the small break room. "I've been meaning to say this," she began. "You've done more than fix my car." Ethan frowned. "I just did my job." No, she said firmly. You showed my son something he hasn't had in a long time. He didn't understand. Lucas talks about you constantly, she continued. He says you explain things. That you listen. Ethan swallowed. I don't know how to ask this without sounding strange, Sarah said, voice wavering. But, would you consider being part of his life? Not replacing anyone, just being there. He stared at her. You mean like a mentor? He asked carefully. She nodded. He needs a steady male figure. Someone who shows up. Ethan leaned back, heart pounding. He hadn't expected this. He wasn't ready to be anyone's father. He was still figuring himself out. But he thought about Lucas's question, about missing parts. I can't promise to be perfect, Ethan said slowly. But I can promise to show up. Sarah's eyes filled again. That's all I'm asking. It started small. Saturday mornings at the shop. Lucas got his own tiny toolbox, plastic, but official. Ethan taught him how to check tire pressure, how to change windshield wipers, how to respect tools. They talked about school, about bullies, about math homework. Ethan didn't try to replace anyone. He just listened. One afternoon, Lucas handed him a folded piece of paper. It was a drawing of a car. 3 stick figures stood beside it. One was labeled, Mom. One was labeled, Me. The third said, Ethan. Underneath, Lucas had written carefully. Thanks for fixing what was broken. Ethan had to turn away so Lucas wouldn't see his tears. Months passed. Sarah noticed changes. Lucas was more confident. His grades improved. He smiled more. And Ethan changed too. Responsibility no longer scared him. It grounded him. One evening, after closing up shop, Lucas tugged at Ethan's sleeve. Can I ask you something? Sure. Lucas took a deep breath. Would it be okay if I called you my bonus dad? Ethan felt his throat tighten. He glanced at Sarah, who stood a few feet away, eyes shining. Ethan knelt down. You can call me whatever makes you feel safe, he said gently. Lucas threw his arms around him. In that moment, Ethan realized something profound. He had fixed a car that day weeks ago. But what he had really repaired was something much deeper, a sense of stability, of belonging. Sometimes, families weren't built by blood. Sometimes, they were built by showing up, again and again, until a missing piece finally fit. And in a small garage at Rivera's Auto Repair, a young mechanic who once grew up without a father figure became the steady presence he had always needed himself. Not because he was asked to, but because he chose to. B.1500 WAD.